Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for agreeing to participate today. My name is Kristie Powe, and I'm a board member for Frankfort, which is focused on race relations, Frankfort. The purpose of our organization is to encourage open and honest conversations about race and race-related issues here in Frankfort and Franklin County. I want to say that we greatly appreciate your participation because it does take a great amount of courage to have these uncomfortable conversations that we hope to make more comfortable so that together we can find a solution to some of these issues. Without further ado, I'm going to give each of you a minute to get started and give a brief introduction. Then we're going to ask you 3 questions, close out, and that'll be the end of our meeting. Kyle, since you were first to appear, I'm going to start with you.
Great, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion tonight. It's my honor to be here. I am a Frankfort kid, born and raised. I came back to Frankfort to practice law, which I've done for about the last 20 years. I have owned my own private small business. I've had to work with payrolls. I've had to handle budgets. I know what it's like to be a small business owner. I also have been highly involved in local and Central Kentucky politics for the last 10 years or so, and I feel like I could bring a fresh voice and a new set of eyes to the Frankfort City Commission, and I would love the opportunity to serve the people of Frankfort.
Thank you so much. Patricia, you're next.
Well, I'm your City Commissioner, Patricia Waldridge. I'm running for re-election. Again, for those that may just be getting to know me, I've lived in Frankfort about 23 years with my son now that is 17, Jason, and Josiah, who is 10. Very active into the school system and the community. I have been honored to serve you over the past year and a half. I am excited for the next few months, though it's going to be a tough time, definitely dealing with budget, but I am excited. I want to continue serving you. I've been a very transparent voice for the commission. I feel that I've been a commissioner for the people, for the residents of Frankfort, and that's what I want to continue. I want transformation to happen, and so getting my feet wet the first year or so in, now I see how things work, and now it's just needing a little bit more time to get some things done and get them moving in the right direction. So thank you. I am number 6 on the ballot. I would appreciate your vote for re-election to continue serving you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Anna Marie, you're next.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Kristie. I'm Anna Marie Rosen. I first want to thank Focus on Race Relations for hosting this candidate forum. The pandemic has brought us new ways of trying to communicate with people. A little about myself. I studied fine arts and mechanical engineering and then went to work for 3M Company, which is where I met my husband, Richard, of 40 years. 3M transferred us to Austin, Texas, and 10 years ago we decided to move here to Frankfort. We really enjoy being part of the friendly and amazing community of Frankfort, the people, the historic sites, the classic architecture. During the past 4 years, I was a member of the board for the Frankfort Plant Board. I was stunned to see that decisions were made, important decisions, without having critical thought. I dig into details and study problems from multiple perspectives. My goal is always to determine the best long-term solution for the entire community based on public input and careful research.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we're going to get started with our first question. I am, again, going to start with Kyle since he was first, and then we'll alternate from there, okay? The first question today, how would you define systemic racism, and do you believe this is a problem in Frankfort and Franklin County?
One of the interesting things about my background is that I have an emphasis in my education in political science with an emphasis in racial and political tolerance. And I had the ability to study systemic racism for the last 400 years with regard to our country. Systemic racism is institutionalized within our country that does not support and holds down people of color that for no other reason other than the color of their skin. And because of systemic racism, we have a significant number of problems in our nation and our communities. The great thing about Frankfort is that Frankfort is a little progressive. Frankfort doesn't have as many of the problems that some of our sister cities have. I believe our latest march that we had here in Frankfort shows the peaceful nature of our town and the progressiveness of our citizens. So I think we always have room to improve. I think we have room to improve with our relationship with Kentucky State University. But I think for the most part, Frankfort and Franklin County has done a fairly good job of dealing with systemic racism as it stands as a whole.
Thank you so much. Katricia, we'll go to you next. Same question, and I'll repeat it for you. How would you define systemic racism? Do you believe this is a problem in Frankfort and Franklin County?
Well, I would define systemic racism as non-equality, looking at one's race and having that race in so many disparities, right? So that could be in the criminal justice system, that could be employment, that could be housing and healthcare, and even having political power to get things done and change things. So that's what I would sort of define that as, just by the color of skin and allowing in those areas to have disparities. In Frankfort, do we have them? You know, there's hiccups everywhere, but I would have to agree with Kyle. Frankfort, for me, is more progressive than maybe other places. Not to say that we are where we should be and where we may need to be. There's still work to do, but I think overall, I'm very proud of Frankfort in the direction that it's going, in the inclusivity that it shows in its community. Just as Kyle said, you know, with the Black Lives Matter march that we hosted on that Friday. It's not about the people or myself who did the planning for that event. It's about the community that came out to that event. That's who made that event successful, because without them, our planning would have gone to just nothing. And so for me, that speaks volumes on Frankfort. They came out, they had Black Lives Matter shirts on. It was very peaceful. People had tears. It's the fact that we want justice for all people of all colors, all nationalities, all cultures. And right now in today's society, Black Lives Matter. It's not saying all lives don't matter, but right now is an issue that we have to focus on. Black Lives Matter, because they are being killed right in front of us and murdered.
That was your time, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you very much.
I didn't hear it.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, Anna Marie, same question. How would you define systemic racism, and do you believe this is a problem, or there is a problem in Frankfort and Franklin County?
Okay, thank you, Kristie. I agree with Kyle and Katricia that it's not an obvious problem, but I do think it exists here. I think that systemic means it's coming from inside, and there are assumptions that are made that people just overlook as not being racist. But I think it is there. When I talk to people about the fact that perhaps the Y will be shut down for 2 years while the new Y is built, and could we use the swimming pool at Kentucky State? I don't get positive responses to that, and I wonder if it is tied into racism in some way, in a subtle way. So I think that for the most part, people are positive and accommodating to everyone, but I think that it is here, and it's an area that we need to communicate more. When I look at different clubs I've been involved with, they tend to be kind of the same age group, the same economic background, not as wide a scope as I would hope they would be. And I think a little bit about white privilege too. I make assumptions about things I can do, and I can, you know, walk over a barrier and no one questions that. But I wonder if everyone can do that. So there is a concern. And I think it's a subtle situation, which is even harder to deal with than the more obvious situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, we're going to start with Katricia this time. How do you plan to improve the relationship between Frankfort and Kentucky State University?
Wow. So that's a how. As being city commissioner for the past year and a half, some of the things that I've already currently doing is just being involved in their programs, attending their events, listening to their side, getting them involved in my campaign, and talking through them through some of the issues they may have in the city. One thing that I wanted to create was allowing students to come into the homes of different residents here. And I even think, I remember asking maybe Anna Rose and them to be part of that. And they were very welcoming to that when I brought up that idea. And then Kentucky State came up with an idea called Breaking Bread. So instead of starting in the homes of residents, we started at Kentucky State so we could become more comfortable. I attended that event and at that table was a city manager and one other person. And then we had about 3 young ladies from Kentucky State. We got to know them. I am still in their lives. I mentor them. I speak to them on a regular occasions, check in on them during this COVID, anything that I can do. And so I think that just the relationship of just going in, getting to know them and understanding that Kentucky State is like an onion. It has many levels. It has an administration, it has students, it has activities, it has ag. And so it depends on which area that you work with and maybe a little easier or harder, but communication is key and just getting involved.
Thank you so much. Okay, Anna Marie, you are next. Same question. How do you plan to improve the relationship between Frankfort and Kentucky State University?
So, yes, I was thinking, what would Frankfort be like 20 years out? And could it ever be a bluegrass town, a bluegrass college town that also is the state capital? And I think it would take a lot of work. I think that there is communication that needs to happen. We have a nationally known aquatic program, or I'm not saying that quite correctly, raising fish, aquaculture program, and very few people know about that. We have the farm as part of Kentucky State, and many people have not gone out there, not had contact with that. So I think improving communication would be the first step. I'm aware of the Breaking Bread Together program that Katricia mentioned. I wasn't able to make it that night, but I heard very positive things from other people who did go to that. Another point that's important with Kentucky State in relationship to the city of Frankfort, our largest employer, of course, is the state employees, and our second largest employer is county school system employees. After that, there are 3 that are very close: Kentucky State, Monoplace, and the hospital. So Kentucky State is a significant employer in the city, but I think that people need to have more contact with the university. Perhaps sharing the pool during our development phase would help with that.
Okay, thank you so much. Kyle, same question. How do you plan to improve the relationship between Frankfort and Kentucky State University?
So one of the interesting things about Frankfort is that for my entire life here, we have talked about how are we going to improve our relationship with Kentucky State University and the city of Frankfort. It seems like it's a never-ending issue, and I think what it requires is a new approach. The old approach has just simply not worked, and I think it takes leaders that want to get involved. It takes leaders who want to get the people who support them in the community involved as well. So when you have a new program like the Breaking Bread program, or if you have a program with the athletics department or the arts department there, that you bring your citizens in with you to become involved. Kentucky State stands on its own, and it is for some reason not involved as an institution with their students and the community. So we need to figure out how to make that happen. We have thousands of students that come from all over the United States, and we don't use the diversity of that to help our own culture. We don't help with job placements. We don't help with mentoring, all things that we should be willing and wanting to do for the time that those students are here.
Thank you so much. Last question, and we're going to start with Anna Marie. What specific steps will you take to ensure racial equality in Frankfort and Franklin County?
Wow, that's definitely a big question. And I think there are a number of areas that we could improve. One thing that's come up recently is the police department, and I would also include with that the fire department. I did have the opportunity to talk to one firefighter and ask them why most of the staff for both the police and the fire department do not live here in Frankfort. And he said it's because the other surrounding areas have intern programs, so people can become familiar with the job and get to know it, and then they stay there and develop, and then eventually look for a higher level job and come here as a job placement. So I think, I know recently in the State Journal it was mentioned that Kentucky State has a relationship with the police department to bring in interns. I hope that that program is going well, but the fact that there are no minority officers means to me that maybe it needs to be expanded or developed more. So that is one area. Communication, I think, is very important, and developing more ways to communicate between different groups.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, now just to make sure everyone had a chance to answer that question, correct?
No, that was the first.
No.
That was the first.
That was the first one.
There you go. Okay, so we next go to Kyle, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, Kyle, what specific steps will you take to ensure racial equality in Frankfort and Franklin County?
It's my hope that during my time on the City Commission, that we would work towards a unification of all people in our city, so we have equality. But I think we have to protect our citizens who are people of color, and one of those ways is we have to make sure that they are being given equal protection under the laws. We need to make sure that our court systems are giving the same protections for these individuals. We also need to make sure that our police officers are given resources that assist not only themselves, but any individual they come in contact with. And that would include making sure that they have body cameras and dashboard cameras so that there's accountability with regard to all of our individuals who work for the city and any of their encounters with individuals. I think that's the most important thing, is transparency. If you have transparency with all of your employees and all of your individuals who work for the city and their interactions with all peoples, then you can guarantee that you're going to have equal protection for each of those individuals.
Thank you so much. Katricia, same question. What specific steps will you take to ensure racial equality in Frankfort and Franklin County?
Well, I think first and foremost in Frankfort and Franklin County, I really do believe we have the programs. We've been, I know with For Frankfort, Together Frankfort, also Jesse who works with those. There are reading programs, there's book programs, watching movies and discussing them. Being able to get those programs out for all of Frankfort and the minorities to know that we need them at the table discussing this, so we can have a safe place to discuss race relations so we can move forward. But definitely getting that message out and letting them know all of the activities that we truly need them at, so their voices at the table. Also, ensuring for racial equality would be pushing, as I've been speaking with the chief over the past few weeks, definitely again, is just seeing how can we recruit more minorities to that using Kentucky State University. But that's not just recruiting, that's also Frankfort growing and to be an appeasing city for that group, those young adults also. because, you know, a lot of different police departments all over are looking for minorities, and they're going to be able to maybe have a larger budget. So we have to look at our budget to see, you know, how we can be competitive to keep officers, police department, with fire department as well, looking to make our city employees more diverse and feel comfortable to be able to come forward on any ethic issues that may arise. Be the voice of the people. That's one thing that I feel like I take a lot of pride in, is that I feel I am the voice for people and just always available to.
You can finish your statement. Always available to.
That's okay. I heard it that time.
Okay. Well, again, I just want to thank you all, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to close out. Since we started with Kyle, we will start with the last to do that, and that was Anna Marie. So Anna Marie, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Okay. I'm happy to be a candidate for a city commission. I bring important strengths that will move projects forward. I have a background working in solving technical problems for 3M and also the plant board. At 3M, I worked with people from many different backgrounds and different countries to develop products. I have the skills to understand complex issues and find solutions. I enjoy tackling problems. While at the Frankfort Plant Board, I provided common sense strategies to improve customer service by reducing wait times and lowering the stress of customers and staff. I believe that public institutions should put people first, be transparent, and use extreme care with public money. Frankfort is about to turn a page on a new chapter in developments of parcel B and C and growth of the city has not seen in decades. The commission needs to work hand in glove with the developer and make the right choices for Frankfort. If elected, I will advance our city by working with both the mayor and the commission to reach out to the community for ideas and concerns while I focus on the best long-term choices. As a retired engineer, I have the training, experience, and time to dedicate to understanding complex issues. I ask questions, seek information from experts, and consult with all parties to determine solutions. I love being in this friendly community with historic character, the Kentucky River, the parks. I hope to help make Frankfort an even more appealing place for people to visit, live here, and work here. My position on the ballot is number 8. I'm asking for your vote in the June 23rd primary. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Katricia, you're next.
Am I muted?
No, you're not muted.
Okay, great. Sorry. Well, I've had the privilege of serving Frankfort for the past year and a half. So thank you first and foremost for entrusting me and allowing me to be your voice and be a fair voice for you. Moving forward for the next 2 years, if voted in, I would like that to continue being resident driven, results focused, and transformation. Transparency will continue. My integrity will continue, as you've seen in many days and many meetings across the board. Some of the things that I feel that are of essence right now is really to go with the COVID. It's going to affect our budget majorly. We have to stop spending now until we get a grasp on the budget of where we're moving forward. However, I do support hugely 100% in some kind of financial assistance for our businesses, for our local businesses. I want to help them out all that we can, and that's going to be one of my priorities leading into the budget on how we can push funds toward our local businesses to help them out, help them survive so they can stay here in Frankfort. I want to be able to have concrete projects so we can move forward. It's time that we stop lagging on things and stop voting on things because we're always running for election. It's time that we use the full 2 years to get things done. And I want to continue on for another 2 years to get some things done. I want to organize the nonprofits as well as the other entities that we give money to. I think that their voice is not heard, and we're always not up to date on what they need and what they are. So I feel that I want to start a program where each commissioner takes a couple of nonprofits and stays in touch with them, reports back to the board and to the residents on a monthly basis, where we can know what's going on in our nonprofits and where we can help out. I want to push forward with Parcel B. It's that we cannot have a hole in our city for much longer. So we definitely need to help with that TIF. We actually need to get that moving in the right direction and do all we can as a city to help get that project off of the ground.
That was your time.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. And Kyle, we'll end with you.
I am honored to be running for city commission at this point in our city's history. But there are some things that we are facing that are very important at this juncture. Frankfort and Franklin County has basically 0% growth over the last 40 years. We have 1.8% growth over the last 40 years. So we need to figure out, especially at a time right now when economics are hard, how are we going to bring in more small businesses? With more small businesses come in more employees, and with more employees, we have a larger tax base. If you don't have a larger tax base, then to keep up with paying the bills, your taxes go up. And so we have to figure out a means by which to increase the tax base. So one of the things that I am interested in doing is introducing economic impact zones across the city to revitalize undeveloped and underdeveloped areas. A willingness to work with incoming businesses and an entrepreneur workshop so that we can help recruit entrepreneurs to build businesses. I think it's important that we work to get an arts and convention center back here in Frankfort over the next 10 years. We miss out on that. I think it's important that we have that. We have one of the best police forces in the state of Kentucky. I think it's important that we provide them with the tools they need. They need proper funding, and they need to have body cams and police video dash cameras for each car. We have a crime and a drug epidemic that we're facing here in this town. I think the city and county need to get involved with that. We need to work to help fund state drug courts, as well as work with opioid addiction counseling centers to make sure that those individuals are taken care of. And most importantly, I think we need to revitalize our park system to help out all of our individuals with the amenities in our town.
And that was your time. Thank you so much. On behalf of FOR, I would like to say thank you guys so much for participating today. We welcome all of your comments, and you are helping further our cause and encourage open and honest communication about race and race-related issues. So you all have a good rest of your Sunday evening. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kristie. Goodbye.